Hi. This is a fairly short but involved pelvic restoration practice, and this practice can be used anytime you're feeling excessively in your head, disembodied, like you're dissociating. It's a great way to cultivate just grounding energy and kind of a nurturing energy. It can also be used in the process of cultivating more sexual energy. Last thing, these exercises are really appropriate and might be very helpful if you're working with any degree of prolapse. So obviously that's something that is also a medical issue, and I encourage you to seek the appropriate support. But this breath and movement sequence will definitely be supportive in whatever process you engage to heal. So make sure you've got a comfortable space to lay down, and acknowledge for yourself what it's going to take for you today to really land in your body. You might need to close all the doors. You might need to pause this and ask for reinforcements just to make sure any sounds, distractions you hear, children in the background, you know that they're tended to, and you can dedicate this time tending to yourself. Once you have that, you might also have a cushion, a pillow, a blanket nearby in the event that laying down on your back isn't comfortable for your neck. You can support yourself, and you'll lay down on your back with both of your knees bent and your feet flat on the ground, about hips width distance apart. Now come to lay down and give your body time to land on the ground. So indulge with your imagination a little bit here. Sink into the ground. Now I happen to be on a concrete floor, so I'm really using my imagination here, imagining that it were like slightly damp earth. That's appealing to my senses. You might be thinking of a super cush bed. You might be thinking of something else, but engage your imagination in whatever way you can to encourage the back of your body to land and almost melt into the floor. Now I feel my knees wanting to separate and slide apart, so what I'm going to do is widen my feet and knock my knees in against each other, and then all the muscles around my inner thighs, pelvis can relax. It also creates a little more space in your low back. You're very welcome to stay here or return to this position. It's called constructive rest at any time. Sort of intuitively, I've laid my hands over my low belly, and I encourage you to do the same. Just rest your hands casually over your hip joints, your low abdomen. And we'll engage sort of this top surface level of abdominals first before we go a little bit deeper into the pelvic tissue. So I invite you to take your fingertips and or your palms and just run a vertical line from your pubic bone to your belly button. It could be like a massage stroke. It could be really light. It could be purely functional, up and down motion. Just trace this line for a moment so you have some visceral feedback, the line of muscle that we're addressing here. And then if your knees are still knocked against each other, please open them to hips width distance. Stand your feet parallel to each other on the floor. And as you inhale, with your hands on your belly, imagine or feel your breath expanding and lengthening this vertical band of muscle. And on your exhale, sense or imagine your pubic bone and your belly button being drawn towards each other by this vertical band of muscle. The movement's pretty subtle. I don't want you to move your pelvis just yet. Inhale, lengthen this band of muscle, expand your low belly. And exhale, gather pubic bone and belly button towards each other. Just do that one more time. Notice if your concentration is crimping your face or your shoulders. Keep that area of your body soft. And then let go of that focus for now and run your fingers, your palms in a horizontal line from hip joint to hip joint. And just sort of do the action here. It doesn't have to be super conscientious unless you've done this several times and now you're starting to get more into it. For now, just kind of awaken sensation across this band of belly. And if you have had a surgical birth or any kind of abdominal surgery, you may notice irregularity in sensation or sensitivity. And you'll want to look into castor oil pack for your scar tissue. So now place your fingertips, rest your hands on the bony landmarks of your hips. And as you inhale, imagine or sense this space getting wider. Maybe you can even inflate that space a little with your breath. And then on exhale, sense or imagine your two hip joints being pulled towards each other like you had a little seat belt connecting the two. You're cinching it up. Inhale, expand. Maybe you trace the fingers out. Exhale, trace them together. Inhale, expand. And exhale together. Now for many of us, getting just aware of these lower bands of muscle is going to engage more readily our pelvic floor muscles, which quote unquote should be involved in all abdominal engagement, but we've become so obsessed with our six-pack muscles that most of us are typically kind of bearing down or bracing or just sort of incorrectly engaging core muscles. So we're moving deeper in to the pelvic floor now, and to whatever degree my visuals or word choice works for you, go with it. If you kind of get a sense of what I mean, but the word doesn't resonate, then feel free to change it up or just sort of let it go in one ear and out the other. I imagine the pelvic muscles as a kind of hammock, and they're often described like that, a hammock set of muscles. So there is this quality of sinking and drawing up, but there's, due to the shape of the pelvis, there is generally this kind of rounded convex shape, and hypertonic or too tight pelvic muscles can pull up, and it can create all sorts of things in the pelvis, but less mobility for respiration, let alone moving our body. So just breathing can be forced up higher into the chest, which is less respiration and can be a contributing factor to anxiety, to lethargy, all sorts of things. Without going down those rabbit holes, let's come back to the actual physical structure. On inhale, the pelvic floor wants to descend and expand slightly. On exhale, the pelvic floor wants to draw in and up slightly. I encourage you to feel for, really look with your mind's eye for sensation in your vaginal walls. It is very common because of muscular imbalance that one side of the pelvic floor will engage and the other won't. And so I'm asking you to work in a really subtle way so that you can start to sense what's going on, and even with your imagination, come closer to symmetrical engagement in your pelvic floor. So enough talking, let's engage. Keep your knees hips width distance apart. You could also put a chair under your lower legs so you had a little less engagement in your legs, and that would still be super effective. We'll do one phase of this with our feet on the wall. So for now, your hands can rest wherever's comfortable. On the floor, on your belly, spread out wide. And as you inhale, imagine those hammock muscles kind of moving out and away from you and expanding like you were inflating a balloon. And then on exhale, they draw in and up, but also through your vagina, you can sense a drawing in and up. Inhale, open, widen. Exhale, draw in and up. And now continue this inquiry and really be clear that you're not pushing your muscles and bones with movement. Allow for the subtlety. It may help you to bring attention to your bones. So fingertips on pubic bone. Inhale, imagine or sense your pubic bone and tailbone moving away from each other. Exhale, imagine, sense them moving towards each other. Again, there's not going to be much actual movement in the bones themselves, not right now. And then imagine, sense your sits bones moving away from each other laterally on inhale and towards one another on exhale. Now here, go ahead and indulge any amount of movement that might feel intuitive or natural. Right? Just sort of this natural pelvic rocking. Inhale, press your tailbone into the floor and pubic bone away from you. Your lower back will lift. Exhale, your lower back will flatten into the floor as you draw your pubic bone in towards your navel. Inhale, there's that widening quality, inflating quality. And exhale, draw in and up, maybe all the way sensing lift to the crown of your head. Inhale, expand. Exhale, gather. And we'll do this about 3 more times. Get curious about your own rhythm and your own sensory experience. Where do you have a lot of sensation? Where do you have very little? And open into that with curiosity. And we're going to get a little bit of extra work going on. You can just continue with this, right? This is a great practice to do for any amount of time. You don't really need to do it for more than 3 minutes, but if you started to want to add on, that's the layers that we're going to add now. You could do this work with feet on a wall, or do what I'm going to demonstrate here. Scoot your feet back a little bit closer to your pelvis. And now you want to have your arms down on the floor with your palms just outside your hips, pressing down. Inhale, find that low back arch, expand, inflate. And exhale as you gather pelvic floor, hip joints, pubic bone to navel. Flatten your low back into the mat and then push straight down through your feet and hover your low back, your pelvis, off the mat a couple of inches. And do this a few times, feeling for the moment when the engagement of drawing in and up is actually doing the lift, and there's very little assistance from your feet and legs. So you want to feel for the internal lift of drawing in and up towards the crown of your head as being the mechanism for lifting your pelvis off the floor. It should not feel like a workout. It should not feel like an exercise class. It should not feel grossly muscular, like quads and glutes. That's not the focus. Your quads and glutes will surely engage, hamstrings too, but they should feel like secondary muscles. You could do this very same thing with your feet on a wall, knees bent right over your hips. So make sure the wall's not too far away from you or too close, and you would hover your hips again. The other thing you could practice, bring your feet a little closer to one another. Keep your hands right where they are. and simply lift your right foot off the floor. Bring your knee towards your chest, but rest it there. It's not a stretch, you don't need to hold it. Inhale, same movement as before. Exhale, gather. Push through your left foot, and as you lift your pelvis off the floor, maintain a level pelvis. Inhale, set your hips down. Let the low back rock up off the ground. Exhale, gather those internal muscles. Draw up toward the head, and then push a little with foot and arms. And do this 3 or 4 more times. The primary engagement is deeply internal. You'll feel a little more glute, hamstrings on the working leg. Keep the effort and the focus internal. After one more, change sides. You're very welcome to rest in between. I'm going to. Both knees drawn to chest or constructive rest. You could also straighten both legs down onto the floor. If you got a cramp or a Charlie horse or something, definitely shake that out. Feet close, arms down alongside your body. Get ready for the other side. Left knee to chest. You'll feel, you might feel, if you bring your attention there, how your pelvis is a little asymmetrical right to left already, simply because of the left knee coming in and towards the chest. That's all right. This is sort of intentional to get those muscles able to fire and stabilize, because every time you take a step or you're going upstairs, you have this asymmetrical shape of your pelvis. Inhale. Exhale, draw in and up through the center of the body, shoulders, face soft, and lift. Inhale. Exhale, draw in and up. Inhale. Exhale, draw in and up. Three or 4 more on your own as feels good. Just notice the shift when you start to get maybe mentally fatigued or physically, when you start really efforting more with those big muscles, and then just stop when you reach that point. When you're finished, come down to rest. Do extend both of your legs out unless keeping them bent feels better to your spine. Bend your knees. If they're not, roll over onto your side and come to sit. Now with the pelvic muscles, and core muscles for that matter, there's obvious physiological benefits to having them supple and strong. There are also many reasons why the muscular tone or function of those muscles might be asymmetrical at least, or damaged. A shock event, a surgery, birth certainly creates a host of challenges for that tissue to restore itself. But one of the primary ways to help restore tone to the pelvic muscles, for example, if birth has been part of the issue, is subtle awareness of our limits and boundaries. So really being attentive to range of motion in your physical body that can stay deliberate and feel strong. Now there is plenty of room for play and a little bit of experimentation and not staying rigid or fearful in our range of motion. But I do encourage you to just tune in for a few minutes each day to like, am I doing this deliberately with my whole body, starting with my feet? This turning to pick up something off the table, or to pick up a child, or to get into my bed, right? The most mundane things that you do over and over are really great places to check in with your habits and perhaps patterns of checking out or working without a sense of rooted stability. That range of motion also applies to our emotional range of motion and extending beyond when you don't have a visceral sense of capacity. So I offer this movement practice as a supplement to your self-inquiry, and hopefully it really yields something even momentary on your path. Thank you.